Hi guys, welcome to another video. In today's video, we are going to look about exception handling. So we will be covering very basics about it. So let's get started. So if a exception occurs in our project, what is the exception which is thrown? So how it look like? So it will look like this is an exception message which is written in red color here. So what is written is exception in thread main java.lang.arithmetic exception divide by 0 at exception.demo.divide, and this is the particular Java line at which this particular thing happened. And what is the exception that occurred is arithmetic exception. So somewhere we divided by 0, so because of that this particular exception got triggered, and this is the exception message, and this is how it will look like. So this particular thing is exception message, and this is called method call stack. So that at which particular line it occurred, and then it will flow along the main methods and along the other methods which call that particular method. So all that stack trace will be shown here. Okay, so location of package, class, method, file number, line number, even the file name and line number, everything will be denoted in this stack trace. So using that we can figure out where exactly that exception has occurred. So what are the frequently used methods of throwable class? So before that let us see what is the hierarchy of this exception classes. So for that we are having a throwable class which is the main class for exceptions, and inside that we are having two classes which extends throwable, which are exception and error. So error is something which we should not catch, which is something unexpected has happened in the application, such as memory overflow. All these things should come under error, and we should not be trying to catch those in our application. And the other class is exception, which is the class we generally use for when we are handling exceptions. And inside that we are again having two classes, which is runtime exceptions, which are called unchecked exceptions, such as divide by 0 and null pointer exceptions. And all other exceptions are there in the checked one, such as Java input output exceptions, and all those exceptions will be there in this particular category. Okay, coming back to the notes, we are having two methods. This throwable class provides two methods which are frequently used. First one is get message. So whenever we will do exception.get message, it will return the description of the exception, such as what is the root cause of the exception. For example, it is an arithmetic exception, so it will return that particular message when we call this message as a string value. And the second method is print stack trace. So whenever we want to print the whole stack trace, like we checked in this particular example here, that at exception dot divide exception demo dot java class line number 3, like that we want the whole stack trace, we will set that print stack trace, and it is going to display the whole stack trace in the console itself. So this is used for debugging, so that thing we can also do. So what happens when an exception event arises is that an exception object is generated, and it is thrown by the GRE itself, and all the execution will stop, and this particular exception object will be thrown by the GRE itself. That is going to happen when an exception is going to be triggered. Okay, and after that, this is an example where we are having a divide method in which we are dividing number 1 by number 2, and we are calling that from a main method, and we are passing 10 comma 0. So when we are passing 0, so 10 divided by 0 goes to infinity, and that is a case of arithmetic exception. So in this example, that arithmetic exception we will be getting. So what flow is going to happen in this particular example is that we have a runtime system, which is the GRE, and then it is going to call the main method, which is the PSVM, public static void main method of our Java class, and this main method is going to call the divide method. And in this divide method, we are doing 10 divided by 0, and arithmetic exception is getting thrown. So exception is thrown in this method, it will be thrown back to the main method, and from the main method again it will get back to the calling runtime environment. Okay, so this is the flow how it is going to happen. And as we discussed, we are having checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. So checked exceptions are those which are checked at the compile time itself, so they should be handled at the compilation time, otherwise we will get compilation error. Okay, in this for check exception, the examples are input output exceptions and JSON processing exceptions, like that we are having examples. And for unchecked exceptions are those which we cannot decide earlier, like what is going to happen, such as null pointer exception, arithmetic exceptions. All these will come under unchecked exceptions, which will be thrown at the runtime. Okay, what are the best practices for exception handling? So it is better to throw specific exceptions instead of generic one. So if there is a arithmetic calculation going on in the method, so we should throw arithmetic exception instead of exception the main class itself. And we should have proper usage of finally block. So finally block we are having, for example, if you are having some database call, so we need, even if some exception occurred, we have to close the database connection. For that we should have a finally block. And we should use the catch block if only the exception is meant to be handled. Like if it needs to be handled, it is not like that we are having a catch block even if that exception needs to be thrown to the calling environment. And we should have proper exception messages when throwing exceptions. Like it should be user friendly. We should define exactly like what is going on. For example, arithmetic exception occurred, like that we have to give proper exception. It should not be the stack trace is sent back as a message. And we should include the cause of the exception, such as arithmetic exception and those all things. And NP should never be caught. So it is a good practice that null pointer exceptions we should never caught them. They should be thrown to the application and they should not be caught. Okay, there are two keywords which comes when we talk about exceptions. First one is throws and second one is throw. So if some a method is there which is inside which the calculation is throwing some exception, so in that case we will have to give method throws exception. Let's say it is a main method, main throws arithmetic exception. So inside that there will be some calculation which will be throwing arithmetic exception. Like that throws keyword is used to propagate exception from one method to another. And we can use it in other way as well. If we having if we it has to throw multiple exceptions, so we can give method throw exception 1 comma exception 2, like that using comma separated values we can give. And if we want to throw a specific exception, we can go give throw new illegal argument exception, like that we can throw an exception as also. So it is like that. And okay, that's it for this video guys. Till then, see you in the next video.